Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, everyone. This is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Carlos Velasco, founder of NOBLE and a community activator helping businesses build authentic relationships with multicultural communities. I'm eager to hear his success story. Welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thank you, Tim. Very grateful for the opportunity to be here.
All right. You want to start with a snapshot of NOBLE and what kind of your main focus is right now, or do you want to back into it, start off with sort of your origin story?
Sure. I think I'd like to start with the story, right? Because everything's
Okay.
with our stories behind typically our businesses. So I'm originally from Ecuador, born and raised, moved to the States when I was 12, lived in LA for about 15 years, and I've been in Arizona now for a good part of about 22 years. When I came to Arizona, I didn't have any expectations except for the ones that people typically preset, which is all about the heat. And I immediately fell in love with the state. I fell in love with the opportunities, the people. I felt in love really with what I recognized was an opportunity for me to develop my career. And also, I became extremely interested about the narrative behind how the state was really beginning to shape its identity at that time. And I got very involved with various organizations that were doing primarily advocacy and outreach work in the Latino Hispanic sector, and then helping organizations that were wanting to do more reach and integration with those communities. I spent 3 years working with the Arizona Hispanic Chamber, which was a great platform for me to understand how to work with the business community and corporate organizations. And then I also spent a good part of about 3 years supporting the local movement, working alongside with Kimber Lanning and Local First, helping them do initiatives that would also integrate more Latino Hispanics into their movement as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I really liked, I had her on the show like a year ago or something. They're doing a lot of great stuff here in Arizona. It sounds like you're poised. Well, let me back up again here too. We met originally at the Global Ties event too, which is another example of you out in the community helping support up and coming people. Can you share how long you've been working with them?
Sure. So in my agency, you mentioned that earlier, NOBLE, we focused on supporting the integration and connection of brands into multicultural markets, particularly when it comes to the Latino Hispanic populations and communities. As many of your audience may know, it's a big segment of our community here, about 30 to 35%, and a lot of organizations still struggle with the know-how because they're very mindful and thoughtful about making sure that they integrate correctly into those segments. So my agency really comes in and develops sound strategies to make sure that they integrate properly and that their products, services, or initiatives are truly embraced and engaged again properly within that segment. Global Ties comes in as a subset of that work. I do a lot of work in the international rim. I just finished my master's degree, my executive master's in global management at Thunderbird.
Nice.
Global management.
So that was a good experience.
It was an amazing experience. And I've seen, as a lot of people know, Arizona is really poised because of its geographical location, the sun or land, to play a critical role in across the world in relation to solar power, chip manufacturing. So these organizations are really helping with the diplomatic relationships between Arizona and the rest of the world. And they have this program called Wildlight, in which they bring entrepreneurs from other parts of the world, actually mostly Latin America, and they match them to companies here in the U.S. So this is our third year matching, being a match to entrepreneurs in that program. So I just love the work they do. I love entrepreneurship. So anyway, anytime that we can support through sponsorship or hosting one of their entrepreneurs, we love the experience. So that's my connection there with Global Ties.
Right. Excellent. That's awesome. That's another example of the impact you have through just your normal efforts, but also going out of your way to support other groups. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned the demographics here. That's like 1 to 2 million. I don't even of Hispanic, Latin American uh, people in the Phoenix greater metro area, right?
2 million, about 2 million Latino Hispanic.
Wow. Yeah,
Maricopa County or Maricopa County, right? Is one of the largest, and then it's spread out
sure.
to.
Well, you're poised to, right, to help people, I guess, convert cultural understanding and community, right, into sustainable growth, right, and really coordinate a lot of that, which is it's a it's a big population, anyways. Is my point. Um, and you, oh gosh, so what's been the biggest challenge in operating in that space locally here, I guess?
Various challenges, but also various opportunities, right? I mean, it is obvious that, particularly at this time in our country, unfortunately, things have become extremely polarized. So that work can be difficult because communities now, particularly Latino, Hispanic, migrant communities, are sometimes very skeptical to engage, and they're very thoughtful and mindful about how they lend their trust into initiatives. So much of the work we do is make sure that we build safe space for a lot of and safe initiatives for these communities to engage into, again, product services of initiative. And then the other part is really the competency that it requires for a company to be able to properly serve the marketplace, right? Because it's not just cultural competency, not just comes from the aspect of language, but truly integrating and understanding all the different cultural dynamics that it takes to build trust within the segment,
Right.
and not serve that segment correctly, and having the type of patience that it requires a lot of times, and also the will to invest in an emerging market could be very challenging, because when you look at the numbers, right? So a lot of our clients will come in and say, that's a $65 billion market in Arizona. We want to get a hold of that marketplace. But depending on the industry, a lot of times we have to help them recognize that's the output of the buying power of the Latino as a whole, but it still needs development, and it still needs investment in order sometimes to catch up with
Sure.
some of the offerings that you have, right? So those
Okay.
components can be challenging on both ends, and us having to work with the community on one end and having to work with the partners on the other end, because it requires a lot of patience, and a lot of times that patience is not there.
Okay, I see. Right. They just want to come in and boom, hit that market.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they do, and it's not an easy. It's not an easy formula, but you just have to stay consistent and be patient through the process.
are there any particular experiences that led you to believe that companies need a different approach to multicultural marketing?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite frank with you, is not so much something that came from us. It came from our clients, right? They recognize that as they were trying to roll their general market strategies into the segment, that they weren't really getting any response.
Okay.
The response that they will get wasn't necessarily very positive or connected to the experiences that they thought they could create for the segment space. So
Okay.
they began to recognize, okay, there's a gap beyond
Right.
language, right? Because I think this is also part of sometimes the misconceptions, right? It's a lot of the misconceptions that individuals in companies sometimes have. Well, that's a Latino Hispanic
Just
market.
yeah.
If I'm not a Spanish speaker, I can serve the market, and that's not
Yeah.
necessarily true. And that's actually
Sure.
one of the least barriers, right? Because 95% of the Latino Hispanic population in Arizona is
Speak English. Right.
bilingual, but it's
Yeah.
more about the cultural competency to
Sure.
understand how businesses transact in a way that it builds trust for these communities, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and, and I
Just
think,
translating the tagline into Spanish isn't enough.
yeah, yeah, that's a term we utilize. We utilize the term transcreation, right? That
Okay.
goes beyond just simply transcreation. You really have to transcreate your organization completely to be able to serve that segment. But the reward, right, is that you get very loyal customers once you do.
Sure. Sure. What does that sort of genuine cultural connection look like in practice?
It's really about I mean it's not rocket science, right? I think it's acknowledgement of culture. And so there's a different components. So imagine if you have a branch, just to speak about one of our credit union partners, right? They have branches that are geographically located in those areas. We wanted to make sure that the representation culturally and visually in space, beyond just people, are connected to what a lot of these communities will seek for connection and belonging and psychological safety, right? So how do you build that sense of that? How do you develop your space in a way that it really provides these things to this community, sometimes at the subconscious level, where they
Right.
immediately feel recognized within the space, right? Again, beyond the language, but it could be the wording, it could be the colors, right? It could be the
Sure.
music that could be played, right? There's just, if any of you have ever traveled to Puerto Rico, I mean, I thought this was funny, but the first time I traveled to Puerto Rico, I remember walking into a CVS and there was like salsa and merengue music. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I would never see this kind of or hear this kind of music in a CVS, but the CVS looks just like every other CVS in the country.
Okay.
But simply with that, there was a cultural connection for me.
Okay.
So welcome, I felt embraced, I belong. And those things are particularly important for Latino Hispanics in two sense, right? One is, I think for the immigrant, for the new American immigrant, we're still very tied and close to our culture that has a lot of meaning. But now, particularly because of the polarization, we're holding on more and more to our identity and our culture as a way to say, as a way to get that sense of feeling and belonging that is needed for the human psychic. So that's why this aspect of culture is critical. It's that acknowledgement to say, I'm here and I recognize that I'm in the US, but you have acknowledged me through culture and you have connected culture. That levels my barriers so that we can begin engaging in building trust.
Okay, sure. And you said it's not rocket science, but there's some craftsmanship to connecting with people. And is this a big part of what Noble does? Is to provide the service to other big companies that come into this market?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So what we do is we really work through understanding our partners first and really assessing their capabilities, understanding their motives, looking at making sure that there's a fit within the marketplace first with product, service, or initiative, making sure that we prepare them for those opportunities, and then helping them with that, and then carrying them through that phase and that process of integration, right? We are big believers in building capacity for our partners. So it's not that we're trying to hold them what is the word? Hold them hostage to this process of multicultural, and you can only get to this community as long as you get through us. It's more about we're trying to help you integrate into this community so that you can build capacity so that you can serve this community long term, right? And we do that because we felt that's the most sustainable way to serve our clients, but also to serve our community. We're very thoughtful and mindful about selecting companies that we feel are willing to invest, that deeply care about serving, that they're authentic about why they want to tap into this marketplace, that is not just about dollars and cents, right? That is not just about extracting, but also giving, right?
Sure. And what sort of industries? Is this all industries really that Noble has been working with now?
We are doing different industries and also initiatives. So everything from supporting projects like city projects, for example, as city projects in transportation, from like light rail expansion, as light rail is beginning to expand, is looking to expand into primarily Latino Hispanic neighborhoods, populated neighborhoods. My team does the work to engage the stakeholders to make sure that they participate through the development process, right? Because when you develop light rail, communities have to come in and provide input. And we do that kind of community outreach work to say, hey, this is going to be critically important for economic opportunity, so you have to participate. right? These projects are trying to be built from a transit-oriented type of feel. So what would you like to see as the light rail expands, and what policy can be built for land use around the project? So we do those kind of
Right.
projects. We work with a good amount of non-for-profit organizations that, again, have initiatives that sometimes need more reach within the Latino Hispanic segment.
Right.
Example, we partner with a non-for-profit who provides programs and for the youth in golf. And they came to us and saying, hey, we're trying to grow the participation of Latino youth into our golf programs. We have this golf courses that are primarily located in Latino Hispanic communities, but we're not having much luck in
Is that part of First Tee?
First Tee Phoenix, yeah.
Okay.
First
Okay.
Tee, we're familiar with them. So we help to develop an initiative named Inspira and help the framework so that through Inspira, they could speak directly to those parents. And
Right.
golf has been a sport that, for various reasons, has never been a sport that has been very accessible to the communities because of the cost, because it could be perceived as an elite sport. But it's a sport that offers a lot of opportunity for the youth through scholarships, through character development. So our job was to develop that type of initiative that can help parents and youth engage in saying, this is accessible to you. You should try it. You should participate. Here are the opportunities that this offers, right? And that type of work is very grassroots, right? It's literally going into the community, getting the kids to grab a club and swing, right?
Yep.
That's the work that we do, is we provide those strategies and we provide those connections in the community at a grassroots level, so that these organizations can begin to develop and build their programs and gain momentum in the marketplace, right? So that's an example. We've done a lot of stuff with organizations that do a lot of mentor development, like New Pathways for Youth. We help them. Their challenge was that 70% of the kids that they serve come from BIPOC communities or Latino Hispanic, but only 20% of their mentors are coming from Latino Hispanic backgrounds, right? So they had a gap between the youth they serve and the mentors that were participating. So the Caminos initiative that we developed is addressing specifically that gap to increase Latina participation in mentorship, right? So those are examples. We work with organizations around systems change. We also have a few small businesses that are private businesses that are providing access to capital. The second largest credit union in the state, One AC Credit Union, is one of our partners. So we really, across the spectrum, we do some work, a good amount of work in education as well. But the need is the same, right? The need is always around outreach, about how do we tap into communities, particularly if they come from multicultural backgrounds.
Okay. So I want to dive into more of that. But first, what sort of size range of businesses do you work with?
So, I mean, I don't know what the best way would be to say that, but maybe it really depends, Tim. But in average, right, it's the average. We have companies that are 25 billion, right? Like some of our partners are national companies too. We have a client that we're developing their brand and communication strategy that is
almost like a startup.
Maybe $1.5 million.
Okay, revenue. Okay,
revenue, and then a lot of times I have helped like literally startups. I do a lot of I get invited to come in and do a lot of workshops, a lot of times about building capacity for small business through branding and communication. So we consider helping as many businesses as we can, because I understand what it's like.
Right. Well, you have the experience. You're kind. You're giving back, and you seem to be a bit of a maker. You like to create stuff and help people do that as well. So back to the community impact and stuff. It seems like you're very well positioned for political work. Do you do more and more of that over time? Helping different platforms or people with different platforms reach out to the communities.
The agency, we chosen not to do that. We chosen to stay away from political campaigns under Noble. We do, however, have considered and have done more propositions. So we looked up certain propositions that are more in which we feel, okay, this proposition really benefits the majority of the community. Like we worked on Proposition 206, minimum wage increase. We felt that that was in alignment with our values, and we saw the value of and the impact that could create. We supported Proposition 308, which was more about the dreamers and making sure that they didn't pay out-of-state tuition. But that not only did impact the dreamers, that impacted students that came from other parts of the U.S., but not necessarily direct political candidate work. We don't. We just no, don't do that kind of work right now.
But okay, but I mean, yeah, I mean, part of your Novele's work is marketing, right? So you could do it maybe freelanced for other people separately, or is it just not in your vision? It's not in your scope. Okay.
It's not. I mean, I think we like to be very neutral because we have to, right? You have to really be able to work with all kinds of communities when you're creating impact, and our primarily focus has always been impact.
Okay.
Right? Impact comes first, beyond politics, and I do believe everyone wants impact in one way or another. And we just like to try to align always with the organizations or individuals and things that we feel will create the most amount of impact.
Right. And bring people together, really.
Huh?
And bring people together.
Yeah,
right?
bring people together, exactly. Be a convener, right? Be a convener, be a connector.
Right. What have you learned in doing that over the years, right? Different organizations with different priorities.
I think it's that there's always a common ground, right? And I think it's as a facilitator and as a convener, we really try to always look at the commonalities between. A lot of times you have misconceptions, you have assumptions, you have certain organizations like in relationships that are not really hearing each other and have not really looked at like where are the commonalities. There's always common ground. So we always, when we become a convener in projects, even sometimes where there may be different views, we always come back to like, but here's the space where these organizations or you guys agree on. There's common ground here.
Right.
How can we start there? And we utilize that primarily to start the relationship, right? Make sure that people are able to tell their stories and see each other's points of views. And we're, as a convener facilitator, we are very good at being able to do that. Right.
Okay. Great stuff, Carlos. Okay. Well, here's a reflection question for you. What would you tell your 12-year-old self arriving in the U.S. from Ecuador today?
I mean, I think it's the same thing that I tell myself today, right? It's a blessing to be in this country. I still believe in everything that this country has to offer. I love this country. It's provided me the opportunities to fulfill so many of my dreams, but I appreciate it, right? Never forget that there are many people who wish had the opportunity that I have.
Right.
And always make sure that with that opportunity, I try to do the best that I can to give back. But would I tell that to my 12-year-old? No, I probably tell him like, have a good time, go to this country, right? Like go to the roller coasters. Right. Because that's the original reason why I came to this country, wasn't I think with the intent to stay.
Yeah, the adventure.
I was coming to adventure and enjoy all the beautiful things and admire all the things that this country has for a kid. So that's probably what I would tell my 12-year-old.
Right?
I was telling that to my 12-year-old, I'll probably be like, what?
That's a great point.
Go play soccer. Enjoy some soccer.
Yep. Some of the wisdom, they're just not ready for at that age, right?
Exactly.
Invest in compounding investments sooner. They don't care.
Go have a good time.
Take care of your body. You're going to need it. They don't care. They're bulletproof. But gratitude, that's a great answer. Being grateful is absolutely one of the more paramount virtues, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
All right, Carlos. If people would like to connect with you, learn more about Noble, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, they can. You guys could follow us on our Instagram or LinkedIn under Noble, which is NO V as in Victor LE, Noble Activators. Or you can also just follow us or connect with me on our website under wearenoble.com or reach out to me. I'm accessible. I'm never out of reach. You could always call me, if I can share my number, right?
Yeah.
Six,
Yeah, of course.
six. You could always email me at carlos@wearenoble.com, or you could always reach myself, 602-466-4095. Feel free to send me a text. That's probably the best way, and say, "Hey, I heard you in Tim's podcast. I'd love to grab coffee and have a conversation." And honestly, whatever it is that I could do, it's not all about business. I really love help. I mean, I've gone to this place because people have helped me. People have heard my story. People have given me guidance. So I'm always thoughtful and mindful about how I got to where I'm at, and it's been because of generous people. So I always try to be as generous as I can with people that want advice, support, connections, whatever it may be.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Thank you very much, Carlos Velasco, for sharing those insights and your humble story of impacting the various communities here in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.